Derby County have some ageing defenders, and Maxime Bernauer is a player who could potentially replace one of those defenders. He's a player who could be coming in from Dinamo Zagreb. He's a player who is 26 years old. He's mainly a centre-back. He's played in some of the top divisions in Europe as well as the Champions League. A lot of footballers always want to come to England. Is that going to be a similar situation for Maxime Bernauer? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But before you do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County content. Shall we get into looking at Maxime Bernauer and why I think he would be an excellent player for Derby County? Well, here we have it. Obviously, you look at Derby County over the course of the last few seasons, and we've got quite an ageing backline when it comes to 3 or 4 of the squad depth players, and probably the best left back at the club in Craig Forsyth, and that's something which Derby County are going to have to deal with and work with over the course of the next 6 to 8 months towards the back end of the season. But Maxime here is a player who I've identified to be a player who could replace the likes of a Sonny Bradley or potentially a Curtis Nelson. As we head towards the summer, he's currently 26 years old. Obviously, the January transfer window is just a couple of weeks away. A big centre-back, someone at Dinamo Zagreb who could be absolutely unbelievable for Derby County if he was to come in. He's got that experience at the top level. He's played for quite a few teams in France, and he is a player who I think could potentially come into that squad option within the centre-back position. Now, if we take a little bit of a deeper look into Maxime, he's played for Paris FC, 71 games, 2 goals, 4 assists. He's played for the B team for Rennes, where he's played 51 games and 1 goal. Where he currently is, Dinamo Zagreb, he's played 42 times, scoring twice with 1 assist. He's also played for Le Mans for 34 games, collecting 2 assists, and Concarau, where he's played 27 games and picked up 2 assists. Now, he's played at some of the best teams over in France in those second divisions and getting up to Ligue 1. He's made 65 appearances in Ligue 2, where he's made 65 appearances, 2 goals, 4 assists. He's played in the Championnat National, where he's played 57 appearances with 4 assists, and you can see the rest of the competitions he has played in there. Obviously, most notably has to be the Champions League, where he's made 5 appearances. I believe they have all come for Dinamo Zagreb, but I'm not entirely sure. And he's a player who, in my opinion, could come with a lot of experience for Derby County, and he may take some time to bed in if he was a player which Derby County would go out and look at. And the only reason why I'm looking at these European players is because over the course of the last few weeks, we've heard a lot of talk from Derby County that they're going to be scouring the European market. And this is a player who has been identified not just in my comment section, but I've also seen his name bandied about over the internet with his quality and things like that. And looking into him, I think he is a player who could definitely add a lot of quality to Derby County and certainly push us forward in the right direction. Now, how many appearances has he made? 225 across the course of his career so far, 16,402 minutes, 5 goals and 9 assists, 25 yellows and 1 red card. He's a player who can play in various positions across the back 4, as well as then going into midfield, which I think is absolutely massive for Derby County, because it would then give Derby County the opportunity to move from a 3 to a 4 within play. Now, we do sort of do it sometimes at the moment already with the likes of Nelson as the right centre-half in a back 3, and then Wilson will push on and push whoever the right winger is a bit more narrow, and then we go into a back 4 and vice versa to go back into the back 5. But I think what Derby County are missing is that player from the central defensive area who can step into midfield and go and play as that sort of defensive midfielder, number 6, number 4, whatever you want to call it. And they can then obviously then push on the likes of Ibu Adams, push on the likes of Kenzo and Ben Osborne and Liam Thompson, and we still have that back 5 set where if we lose possession, they can drop straight back in, but we also have that opportunity where he can move forward into the midfield. And I think that is really what Derby County are missing, is that ability to be fluid in what we're playing without really changing. Like, if you look at how we've been recently with our away games and home games, we often make 4 or 5 changes to change the system because that's the only way it can work, which is why I think we need players like Maxime to come in and take on that role of being a centre-back but also being a defensive midfielder. And I think that's something which he can absolutely do when you look at this position chart. Obviously, majority of his games have come at centre-back, and that is where I think he'd mainly play for Derby County, but having that option to go into midfield where he plays as that holding midfielder, or even right back where he's played a ton of games as well, I think he could be an absolute wonder boy for Derby County to come in and really push us on to that next level. You obviously look at the clubs who are pushing for those sort of promotion positions and the playoff places and stuff, and they can sort of rotate positions as the game's going through, and they can change formations without having to make substitutions. And I feel like Derby County at the moment are sort of stuck in the ability that they've got to stick with what they've got for the most part. So it is going to be interesting to see how it develops. Obviously, there's a long way for Derby County to go before they become playoff or promotion contenders, and maybe even be able to pick up a player like Maxime Bernauer, who has Champions League experience. But I certainly think with that versatility that he's showing with this position map, I think he's certainly a player who Derby County could take forward to the next level. Now, is he a player who would want to come to England? We know it's a common thing for players in Europe to want to come and play for Derby County, but we also have to look at where he'd fit in for Derby and whose position he could potentially take. Now, his positions, as just noted, are centre-back, holding midfield and potentially right-back. Now, I don't think he'd come in anywhere near a right-back option with the likes of Niambi, Wilson and Ward. I think we're well stocked there. You look at the defensive line, and this is where I think he would come in, and that is that centre-back position where he'd probably replace a Sonny Bradley or a Curtis Nelson going forward. Obviously not straight away. Obviously Curtis Nelson's been absolutely phenomenal so far this season, and probably will be towards the end of the season, but Sonny Bradley is a player who's not really been able to get in the side. I believe he missed out completely for the Portsmouth game, which is obviously one of those where it looks as if he could potentially be on the way out in January. So this would be an excellent signing to replace Sonny Bradley. You bring in someone who's 5, 6, 7 years younger, has experience as well. Obviously not championship experience, so that's something that we'll have to build, but certainly a player who could push Derby County to the next level and potentially become a partner to Erin Cashin for the next 4, 5, 6 years as we progress our club into that playoff and promotion contender within the championship, which is obviously where we all want to be long term. Obviously short term, it's just about staying in the division. Now, as mentioned earlier, his contract expires in 2027, so it would have to be a permanent deal because he is at sort of a key cog in that Dinamo Zagreb team. So it's one of those for me where I certainly think the opportunity could arise for Derby County to go and pick up Maxime. Is it a player who Derby County will be looking at? I'm not entirely sure. The big question for me is, what are Derby County looking for? And for me, I think it's going to be a number 9, a left back, a central midfielder and a centre half. Obviously, we've got to look to the future with these deals, and that's something which Derby County have to do with this one, especially when you look at the options we've got at centre-back. Sonny Bradley's out of contract in the summer. Nat Phillips will head back to Liverpool, so this would open up the door for the third choice centre-back option essentially, and obviously then that could come into a back 3, it could come into a back 4 and potentially take over the likes of Curtis Nelson or even Erin Cashin if Cashin was to, for whatever reason, move on, because we know that is a possibility. Now, this signing isn't one that's been linked. It isn't one that's going to be probably happen or probably going to be talked about, but it's a player who has been identified in my comment section, and a player who, after looking at, I think could be an absolutely unbelievable option for Derby County to push themselves forward. Is that going to come at the course of this January? I am not entirely sure, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one.